that could be considered estate planning. As many of you thought, it was just putting a will in place, but I can give you guys a little bit of homework, right? So the next time that we meet, I want y'all to tell me, well, Shana and Anika, I did what y'all told me to do, or even after this, y'all thought about it during our presentation, and y'all are able to tell me that y'all did this one action, which is the first thing. It's so simple. It is to think, and I want you to go home and do it yourself and tell somebody to do it too. It's to just identify your assets, right? Just think about what it is that I truly own. Do I own a house? Do I own land? Did I inherit some property from a grandparent? Do I have money on the bank? Just start thinking about those assets that Anika and I mentioned. It could be tangible, things that you could touch, or intangible. If you created a little side hustle during COVID, we're starting to think about those things.
And as much as we identify assets, it's also important to identify your liabilities. Those are things that does not cease after death. Your liabilities will continue after death. It continues in your lifetime until you pay off completely, but it will continue after death. So it's important that you put certain things in place to either take care of them after death, or you continue to take care of it in your lifetime. Because if you have beneficiaries, the beneficiaries will inherit the debt.
Speaking of those debt beneficiaries, is also an action plan to start to think of who do I want to give certain assets to. Right? So you're starting to think like, all right, I got the house, I want to give that to my son. I got the car, I want to give that to my daughter. I got some money in the bank, I want to give that to split it between my children and my godson, etc. You want to start thinking about who do I want to give those assets to. Another part of estate planning that you may not consider is to start to assess your circumstances. Am I acquiring property? Am I looking to inherit some property soon? Do I have a loved one that has special needs? So do I need to start putting things in place if something happened to me? Am I going to be out of the island for a considerable time?
And as Shannon mentioned, assessing the circumstances, it involves the process of evaluating your life. It also involves taking a good look too at the circumstances of your beneficiaries. Some of you might intend to leave assets to children, and children cannot own property in their own name until they become adults. And in that case, we need to think about who can be a trustee for these children. It could be close family in your lives. It could also be friends or someone that you trust. But it's important that when you have children and you do intend to leave some asset to them, that you also consider who will be responsible for taking care of the financial needs of the child. And we will also add too that adult children, or children. Adult children,
you're a children,
yes,
but adults.
Adults. They are also to be considered from the perspective of disabilities. There are some children, some persons that will have disabilities and they will still need some form of care. And in appointing certain trustees or persons that could be, in a sense, guardians to those persons could assist also to kind of put your mind at ease in order to be, you could be at rest when it comes to your estate plan because they are taken care of. Because I know for some persons, there will be concern about those individuals in your lives.
So add that to the homework too. So you're not only identifying the assets, but you're also going home and thinking about your circumstances. Is it someone else that I want to take care of that is not my immediate family? Do I have godchildren? Do I have nieces and nephews that the law may not recognize as your immediate family, but is someone that you would want to take care of if you're not here?
So after all that we would have mentioned, I'm hoping that certain things are kind of resonating with you as to why it's important to create an estate plan. It ensures that your assets go to who you want them to go to. It also gives some level of care for the beneficiaries or persons in your life, and it minimizes family disputes. And as I mentioned before, it eases your mind. Putting your mind at rest, I think, is a great asset to all of us. So I hope that many of the things that we have already spoken about will kind of give you some things to think about so that we can all be at rest when it comes to making these decisions in our lives.
How many of us here know someone that their family is fighting over an asset right now? I know, it's me.
I know many times
and it is not pretty.
there are certain, I am sure persons see like abandoned houses around and you wonder, why are these houses so abandoned? Many times it's a result of family disputes when it comes to probably not taking care of the assets that they have in their lifetime when they have an opportunity to do that. And then it ends up in litigation matters, and it's long drawn out in court, and then persons might be fighting against the other. They don't want to put the expense into the home, and then it's a lot of back and forth, which is very stressful for anyone involved in the situation.
I would say we see it firsthand as attorneys. You would tell yourself, well, that's your sibling. Y'all in raised together in the same home. And you're like, no, I didn't want she to get nothing. Mommy told me that the asset is for me. And you got to tell yourself, like, okay, mommy really probably should have get that will and decide who should get certain things. But you wonder how these siblings could be fighting like this, or there was good all along when mommy and daddy were alive. Mommy and daddy passed away, and all of a sudden they are fighting like they are strangers.
Yeah, which is a sad case. And we'll move on now to speak about wills in particular, which is a form of estate planning, as most of us know. A will is a legally enforceable declaration of how a person wants their property and assets distributed after death. So in simple terms, you create a legal document, a document which stipulates what your assets are and what you're going to do with them, whether you're going to give it to your beneficiaries who might be your relatives, or whether you choose to give it to any charity organization so that you can ensure that when you do pass on, that your assets go to where you designate them to be.
Now, we forgot to mention, I should say, that beneficiaries do not need to be your relatives. As I mentioned, it could be someone that is not your blood relative. It could be a charity that you are passionate about. It could be your church. And as I mentioned, the law will make an assumption about what you should do if you don't say it during your lifetime. So if you don't put certain things in place, what you wanted for your church will not go to your church. You will now be, well, you'll be passed away, but there will be hope that my asset or my children do what they hear me talking about all the time when I was alive. And the reality is, sometimes when people see certain assets, they say, I wasn't even really interested in the church. I can keep the asset, right? And really and truly, the heart's desire was that your church have something as well, or a charity with children, or educational pursuit, a school.
All right, so as we discuss wills, we have to speak about the legal requirements of a will. And one of the most important legal requirements